Okay, well, let's get started. And good morning. Happy Friday to everybody. Nice and sunny. Hopefully it's sunny where you are too. Wanted to welcome you to our webinar today, which is titled Back to School. We're not physically sending you back to school, but what we are going to talk about are the tips and tricks around developing your business's core values. Now, I'm not going to go into what that's all about. I don't want to steal any of Stephen's thunder, but I am here to keep the housekeeping in order. So let me introduce you to Stephen Sanford. Stephen is a director here at Davis Grant. And as I say, we're talking about core values, and Stephen's been integral to how we've developed the core values here at Davis Grant, and he's going to talk us through his experience of that. So I'm going to hand over here to Stephen, and I'll come back at the end for any questions. Over to you, Stephen.
Hi, thanks, Jo, and good morning, everyone. And sorry to have called the webinar Back to School. Hopefully, it didn't give anyone too many palpitations, but this time of year, and in particular for myself, my youngest child has now started secondary school, so haven't had to deal, or my wife hasn't had to deal with the commute and driving to school, especially, I guess, given the the gas crisis at the moment. Haven't had to worry about that, certainly for the last few weeks. But nevertheless, it's good that they're both at school and going to school in their own right. But why have we called this Back to School? Well, one, yes, it is this time of year, September, but it's really trying to get sort of, I guess it was Tony Blair or John Major, I think it was, that said, back to basics, and really think about our business, where hopefully people on here are all business leaders in your own company, in your own business, and to try and think of something that perhaps is entirely obvious and is not rocket science in any way, but perhaps is missed in the general cut and thrust of business, our day-to-day cycle that we go through, and something that I've seen for business, having worked with business for now over 20 years, and seeing that it's just an area that perhaps is taken for granted. And I know this, and I'll speak about what we've done at Davis Grant ourselves for our own business, and certainly how we took it for granted, and really how the core values of your company are intrinsic to everything you do and should permeate every aspect. We perhaps look at things like core values in terms of the product that we present to our customers or our clients, but does that core value permeate to our team, to our stakeholders, to other areas of the business, how we present ourselves, our marketing, and so on and so forth. And that's what I'm going to speak about today. I think it was advertised for about an hour. That is actually, I think, an error. It's only half an hour. So straight away, I've given you half an hour back of your Friday, but it's only half an hour. And really, this is just a sense of a teaser to tell you a little bit more about core value, for you to start thinking about that and what that means for your business. So here, as I said, what we're planning to do, this is really what's the point of core values. So the point of core values is hopefully it builds a future vision. What do we stand for? What does our company really, if you were to take a moment and have sort of 10-20 seconds now, and just think to yourself, what does your company stand for? What is the vision now? What is that future vision? And I won't have a dramatic silence there in case you think the Zoom doesn't work, but nevertheless, hopefully subconsciously you can start thinking of those sorts of things and think of what does it mean, the cohesion within your business. Perhaps you have it, as we have, with team members that may behave in a different way to how you would like them to behave or conduct themselves with clients and customers, how you would like them to be, how you would like them to interact, and things that perhaps seem absolutely obvious to you as business leaders is not obvious to them. And how do you create that cohesion? Perhaps it's these more subtle aspects to your business. Yes, you can have rules and procedures and a system and a process, of course, but fundamentally these more subtle aspects about what binds your business together. What are you doing about your business? How does that communicate? How do your clients, customers understand what you stand for? That's really what's important. And I said that as the third point states, to strengthen your brand and standing out from the competition. It also can help core values to drive improvements. One of the things we've certainly seen that at Davis Grant, because it's a level and a benchmark once we've done it, that we can hold the team to account and everyone understands what we mean by our core values and knows the level that we're trying to achieve. And so it instantly starts to drive improvements up. And of course, it delivers quality products and service. If your team understand what do you stand for, and it's clear, and it's transparent, and it's not jargon. That's an important thing, and I'll come on to that. It's not a word that means nothing to anyone. It is clear, it is concise. The ideas, the core values, then for sure this will deliver quality products and service. And so why did we develop this service? Why did we develop this idea of core values? Well, I've seen, between the 5 partners at Davis Grant, we've got 100+ years of experience, probably now to 150 years of experience working with business. And yes, as accountants, we see the numbers and we see the tax and of course, know the profit and those sorts of things. But what we also do is, over the course of a year, have many, many tens and upon tens of conversations, not hundreds of conversations with clients about their business and the things that are going well for them and the things that are not. And we're perhaps in a fortuitous place where we're able to really get a sense of what works for companies and what hasn't worked, and give advice and give improvements. And we have done this in a always for many years, as a good accountant should do, and we've certainly done it to informally discuss and talk about what does the business stand for, and is that permeated and communicated towards the team. But has it actually been done formally, and had we have created something that is there to formalize this thought and this concept of core values? We hadn't done that, and we thought actually this is an area that's incredibly important for business and an area we wanted to specifically focus and develop. So I guess, it's easy for me to talk, but you have to walk the walk as well. And for core values, we did this on ourselves, and it was a tough challenge, but we thought, how can we, as much as we've spoken to clients, we've done this informally, I said, over many, many years, but if we don't do it ourselves, then it will be meaningless to those that we would like to help. And so we decided to create our core values to strengthen our operations and create a vision for the future. We spent time researching, and that's important considering what our values should be. This isn't something that is done overnight or in 1 minute. And we had to really think about, how do we define ourselves and our service? We decided on the best method of delivering and communicating our core values. So that's great. Once we've got them, how will we communicate them? Where do we present them? How do we let our clients know what our core values are? How do we let our team know? How much of the team involved in designing our core values? And then that's great. We've got them. We've let people know. We've let clients know. How do we then, in a practical way, actually apply them to our strategies, work, and approach on both in a day-to-day basis as well as moving forward? And so here we are. This is the Davis Grant core values, and this isn't anything that's confidential. It is here. Anyone who's been onto our Davis Grant website, if you have a look on our website, you'll see a drop down that says our core values. And this is something that we worked on over a number of sessions to get to this point. And we worked in the main with our senior leadership team and the partners in our senior leadership team. and thereafter brought it out and widened it out to then the whole of our team. Now, for some of you that may be practical, some that may not be practical, where Davis Grant, we're a team of around 40 team members. So that's how we were able to do it. Started off with the partners and the senior leadership team, and then towards the end brought in the whole team. So we had total buy-in, and not just buy-in, but we had their opinion. If there was anything that their views that they had that was perhaps different to ours or we hadn't thought about, it was certainly brought in and considered. But for your company, if it's significantly larger, that may not be practical to have everyone in. The same token, you may say, well, actually, regardless of the size, it is something that we'd like the whole team to be on. And they're different. Perhaps it's not in the form of a meeting, but in form of a poll or a survey and other areas and metrics to measure. And so this is what we came up with. I won't go into it in detail here, but essentially we had, if you like, what were the strap lines and things that really permeate to the team. So one family, something that we believe in. And the important thing for us at Davis Grant is that our core values should be the same, whether it's what do we think of our relationship with our clients, as it is the same, what do we think our relationship is with our own colleagues. So, for example, the one family, which is the first core value you can see there, that is something that we strongly believed is a core value. Perhaps we hadn't communicated that to clients and communicated that enough to the team, but it was implicit and implied. But the one family should permeate for us how we believe we relate with clients, as well as how we feel we are together with the team. And so these were the areas we've got here. We champion integrity. We're here for you, unequivocal excellence, and exhibit professionalism. And then below that, what that means in more detail, as I said, it's not just catchphrases, it's actually what does it mean in words, but again, trying to be as concise as at the same time that it doesn't go on each thing for sentences and it loses its meaning or its punchiness. And so, well, this is good, but who should develop a set of core values? So I think this is important. Number one, do you as business leaders and owners find it hard to differentiate yourself from your competitors? So I can speak for us as an accounting firm. How would you decide whether you are Davis Grant clients at the moment, or you've got another accounting firm that you work with? How do you decide who you work with? You know, if cost is the only decision or the way that you can judge an accounting firm, then accounting firms are not doing their job and showing how we differentiate beyond that. What service, what support, what advice, what guidance do you give? How responsive you are, and so on and so forth. And is that something that is just in your industry is something that is tricky for you to show? How does your service differentiate from anyone else? I know for ourselves, for example, we work with a number of recruitment companies, and initially one can say, well, I'll judge a recruitment company that we're going to use based on who is going to charge us the lowest fee, the lowest recruitment fee. But actually, that's just on a superficial level. And if the one that's charging a higher amount, perhaps not too crazy high, but a high amount, is actually providing us an amazing service, providing us with unbelievable candidates, and responds quickly to us and filters them, then this is something that perhaps if they communicated that and they had the core values of their recruitment firm, this is something that us as an accountant, when I'm looking at assessing which recruitment firms to use, would be something that would distinguish that. The same token, I think as I touched on before, are you frustrated by a lack of aligned behaviour within your team? So is there a core value of, for example, how one should speak to clients on the phone? Or your customers, is there a certain professional way? You don't want to micromanage every one of your team. So are there underlying principles, as I said here, core values, that the team can understand, and not just the existing team, but someone new, someone today joins your company and they get given these core values so that they can then understand very, very quickly from tomorrow, what does the company really stand for? In fact, even better than giving it to them today on the first day they start, give it to them weeks before. So they're ready to go on day one, understanding exactly what you're about. In fact, I would go even further than that. We have now got it as part of our recruitment process, both to attract candidates to us so that the recruiters work with us and we work with candidates and recruiters to explain our core values that hopefully even attract the candidates who want to apply to work at Davis Grant in the first place. So that's how intrinsic really it becomes. Would you like to get the very best from your team without getting the big stick out? This is again we've done this a lot. Rather than saying to the team, you're not doing this correct, you're not doing that correct, that's not the right way you should speak, that's not the right way. A client, you should have responded to that client within X number of hours, and a whole load of sort of arbitrary decisions that we feel were either obvious, or would have been somehow communicated. But here we can say the core values. We've got one that's that says unequivocal excellence, and so we will often say to our team, is that hopefully not too often, but if something does happen, was that an area that you demonstrated unequivocal excellence, our core value? And they think about it, and it's a softer way, perhaps a more subtle way of explaining the level that we are trying to achieve. And would you like to have a business where everyone, including you, loves coming to work? And so, well, this is great, but what's involved in how do you go from all these ideas, these conceptual things, to actually now starting to develop the core values? So what happens is that we at Davis Grant would facilitate a number of discussions initially, as it says there. We would brainstorm with you the values most important to your team. We prioritize those values to have a maximum of 5 core values. And that's important because when you start, you maybe end up with 50 values that are important, but gradually you realize that a number of them perhaps means the same or very similar, and there's a word that may encapsulate 5 or 6 of those values that you throw out. And then gradually we work together to develop a key definition, as you saw, as hopefully you saw there at a glance, the definition of what each of the core values are. And then we'd discuss with you, well, how this is great, but how would you plan to unveil and display your new core value to your team, to your clients? So, well, when should you do this session? I think there's 2 things. One is I wouldn't wait, but at the same token, I would say it needs to be when you're in that right frame of mind and ready to think about this, how is these core values? I've got these issues, I've got concerns, I can't communicate with my client, they don't seem to get what we stand for, and my team don't really understand what we stand for. And if it's at that point, then that becomes, absolutely critical. If it's not got to that stage, then it's good to be proactive and get this set up in advance before it becomes to that critical stage. But you need to allow yourself that space and time. And it was very hard for us, for us at Davis Grant. We're all incredibly busy people, partners, but and the team, of course, as well. But we decided that this was actually really, really important. It was something that we felt we really needed to do, and we invested the time and the space and the headspace as much as the physical hours to start working on this. And so, what's the benefits of this? Well, number one, it builds a foundation for the culture, as I said, you believe is fundamental to your success. It increases alignment within your team. As I said, the people understand what does your company stand for. It allows you to clearly communicate what is important to you, your team, and the company with any stakeholder. And it allows you to determine the values that will drive your business to achieve its vision. The core values also, they guide expected behaviours. This is what we were saying, how your team interacts with each other and your clients. For example, if you've got a certain dress code, I mean, I know now in these sort of hybrid models that we're all working with, dress code may be a bit different, but in a pre-COVID age, how would you communicate? Do you have a rule book that says this is the dress code? Or actually, is it a core value and a principle that the team would understand intrinsically what the core values, what do you stand for? How should one present themselves when they're liaising with customers, clients, how one should behave? Do you say, all right, mate, that might be appropriate, but that might not be appropriate with certain clients, and so on and so forth. And it gave, as I said, exactly as I just said, it gains a framework for effective communication between colleagues, communication also between the hierarchy. It shouldn't be one rule for how colleagues should behave to the directors and the owners of the business. It should be the same principle for how the directors and the owners behave towards employees and colleagues. This is one that perhaps isn't so obvious, but for sure there is a benefit in this. Reduce workplace stress and tension and build better working relationships. When the managers, if you've got, depending on the structure of your company, you have a certain hierarchy, managers or yourself as owners who are liaising with your employees. If you're forever battling, thinking they just, my team just don't get it, they don't understand, they just don't respond, they turned up an hour late, they did this, they did that. All of that, instead of having to worry, you can just say, these are our core values. Are you holding by this? As I said earlier, you haven't performed in the unequivocal excellence. You saw, for example, a colleague was struggling, and so one of ours, as I mentioned, core values is one family. Did you help that colleague, or were you thinking, I'll just deal with my own work, it's not my problem, that's my colleague's problem? Did you behave in that one family? And the manager or the partners and the owners can say to that colleague, I'll be honest, you saw, so-and-so who was struggling, and you didn't behave in that way, in that core value of one family. And that's not really how you should behave. And we have found, and we've seen that with companies or ourselves, that by saying that and sort of putting it onto the core values instead of it just being us, has really helped the whole workplace stress and tension. And they act as decision-making filters for the day-to-day operation of the business. So if there are two tasks that need to be done and one fits in with the core value and one does not, perhaps you go more to the one that fits in with the core value. And perhaps one of the most important, is to differentiate your company from your competitors. It's massive. It's massive. Why should they come and work with you? What are your core values? What do you stand for? And showing that you've actually put the effort in to, this isn't just, you've had some, a marketing agency that has come that makes it look nice, and this is your, your supposed mission statement. This is far deeper than your mission statement. This is the intrinsic core value for your business that hopefully can then permeate to your competitors. So, for example, again with Davis Grant, it's something that when we're sending out proposals for potential new clients, we put our core values as part of that proposal pack that we're trying to work with. So it really becomes a way to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. And as I mentioned earlier, it becomes a primary recruitment and retention tool. If you're in an industry where it's highly competitive, we've heard the news recently about how many job vacancies there are, and it's very much an employee-driven market at the moment. Well, how do you differentiate yourself if you're in a market where there's high competition to attract good quality team members. So if they are able to understand your core values and understand what you stand for, and especially if they're coming from somewhere else, that they've had a bad experience, they're coming from a company where the management didn't understand them, didn't help them, didn't support them when they were struggling, didn't spot that they had certain great abilities, that they could be nurtured and they could have progression in their role, then, and your core values demonstrate that and explain that that's what you're about as a company, then that's a great way to recruit, and at the same time also to retain the team, so that the team can look at the business and look at the team and understand where you're going with that. And the last couple is it hopefully inspires people to take positive action because they aspire to live into core values. And ultimately, the core values contribute to the overall success of the organisation. And again, it's something we've seen at Davis Grant and have seen with clients that we've helped with on this. And for us, I'm really, really excited and delighted that we've actually, something that was done informally with our clients and touched on, that we've actually made it into an actual core values product that we are able now to roll out and work with yourselves, whether you are existing clients of Davis Grant or not. That doesn't make any difference. So we're happy to work with you on this, and hopefully you can see just from what I've spoken to you about in this sort of half an hour or so as to how important we feel, and we're very passionate about core values. So that's it from me. So I'd like to say thank you for coming on, and I hope on this Friday morning. And I can see Joe's back there, and so leave it to if there's been any questions.
That's great. Thanks very much, Stephen. And yeah, we do have a couple of questions which I'll pass over to you if I may. One question is, did you have any kind of pushback or reluctance from your team when you started this process? And were they resisting that change, if you like, in the way of doing things?
Yeah, I presume the question in terms of the one we did with Davis Grant. And I think the key thing for us was we got I think as I mentioned in the slide in the webinar, was that we had to get the team, we realized we had to get the team involved very much in this. And if we just did it as partner-led and imposed what we believed were our core values onto the team, we would have had reluctance. I've got no doubt about that. But what we did, that being said, we got our senior leadership team involved, who are very experienced. We're lucky we've got many people who've been with us for 10, 15, 20 years. So they understand Davis Grant very, very well. And so together with them and the partners, we worked on this. We got it, we curated and worked on it. And then, but before we had finalized it, at that point, we then did get the whole team, and 40, it was fine. It was, quite a busy interactive session. We split up into groups. We used Zoom to split away into different groups and rooms and things, and we were able to do that all and then get everyone together. And so we were able that way to get the team together. But I think had we have just dictated it down, for sure there would have been a lot of reluctance. Just on that point, actually, Stephen, if you're doing these sessions with clients and other businesses, is it done virtually, or do you prefer to do it on site? Yeah. I prefer to do it on site, but the last 18 months has dictated things otherwise, and we've all had to get familiar with different methods. And I appreciate, the teams and the company, that you work with, all their team may not be on site together, and so it could be great that I turn up, but half the team are remote anyway. So I think I would just say I would say the best way to do it, of course, is face to face. I really believe that, but it does work fine doing it virtually. Okay, and final question. In terms of keeping the momentum going, once you've established those core values, what's the follow-on from
so you do your workshop, you develop the core values, you buy into that process. How have you as a kind of leadership team actually kept that momentum going?
So the first thing we did, I hope you can see it from there, is we turned it into a very beautiful graphic. We got our marketing department to assist with turning our words into this graphic, which then we can put and be part of our website. And then, as I said, it's part of our prospect pack. So it really becomes key when we're having discussions with potential clients. In terms of the team, we have weekly department meetings, and the department meetings each week we ask the team to tell us, and they have to start, and it's in departments, so it's not 40 people, it's in departments, so 8 people or 10 people or 4 people, depending on which department it is, but they always have to start off every team meeting with saying something they have done in the week that demonstrates one of those core values. Okay. And so it's something that each week they have to think about, and they know that it's going to come up, and they know that question is going to be there, and that's and therefore that's important. And it becomes eventually, the first few weeks it's a bit awkward, but over time, we've been doing it for a long time now. It becomes second nature.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much, Stephen. That brings us to the end of our questions. Thank you for the presentation. We will make a recording of this available on our website and social media channels. And I'll look forward to the next one. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Bye.